There are the current odds for the AFC North, provided by DraftKings Sportsbook. The Ravens favored at -170. We talked about a big spread last week with the NFC South from the Bucs to the Saints. That's a pretty big spread, and I'm not surprised. Ravens, Browns 40-1. There are the Steelers in third position.
Are you surprised that there's such a gap between the Bengals and the Steelers? I mean, has anybody watched the Bengals defense?
I really do think it is hard for us as football fans to forget about last year.
Yeah.
Now, last year the Steelers made the playoffs, the Bengals didn't, but right. I think we would have said that, by the end of the year, the Bengals were the far better team.
Definitely. Beat them last week.
The Bengals belonged in the playoffs, and the Steelers did not by the time the end of the season rolled around.
Yeah, you're right. The Bengals were going like this still at the end of the season. The Steelers definitely were on a downward trajectory, and totally feel you that way. But I just still think that the gap is a little big there. I do. I think there's some serious questions in Cincinnati. I know Joe Burrow's the man. I mean, damn, he is the man. And those receivers, they're awesome. And but gosh, there's a lot on that offense right now. And the defense hasn't done anything to show me they'll be like, oh, yeah, okay, watch out. They'll be different. I mean, between, the personnel and a new scheme being learned and all that, man, it's just I'm a little surprised that the gap is that big. That's all I'll say.
The Steelers are fascinating to me, and I'm trying to think of a good metaphor here. The Steelers remind me of the kid who got a brand new haircut that he loves, and he just assumes everyone else is going to love it, and he's about to find out when he shows up at school with his new haircut. And they're either going to love it, or maybe they're not going to love it. This Steelers experiment with Aaron Rodgers and all the other things they've done, they're the kid with the new haircut, and they're showing up for school soon, and we're going to find out if this thing flies. And the Steelers seem to be very confident that the new haircut is going to fly. I'm not so sure it's going to. Here's DK Metcalf, one of the components of the new haircut, on the good vibes the Steelers currently have.
I think I've just never been a part of a team that's this close-knit since college. So I think we're going to play hard for each other. I think that's going to, get us out of a lot of stadiums, along with the talented people that we got on the roster. I think, a lot of people may be looking at us like, oh, what are they going to do? It's a big question mark. But, they can just wait and see what we do, because I think we're going to do some special things this year. Looking forward to it, and, maybe we can run it back.
Maybe. Wow, you got him at a maybe?
I told you it's just a massage.
Big props.
First of all, I was just talking to you during the break about the movie Sinners, and how a week after my son and I watched it, I still think about it. That's how impactful and awesome it is. That shot in the dark, like where are the vampires? Like where are they going to pop up with a fiddle? It's just it really. If you haven't seen it, you don't know what you've missed, and if you've seen it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But that was a podcast that started in the daylight, and it ends in the dark. And I don't put a whole lot of stock in Aaron Rodgers. Maybe he's kind of already dropped that maybe with McAfee, that maybe he'll come back for another year. Talk to Brett Favre about that one, though. If you have a great season, there's an argument to be made. It's never going to be as good the second year.
Right.
Late in your career, early 40s, it worked well for 1 year. Don't undermine it by coming back and having a 6-11 season the next year. That would be my general advice. No matter how well it goes this year, even if you win the Super Bowl, just walk off into the sunset and call it, because you're going to undermine it if you come back another year.
Yeah, it'd be interesting nonetheless, right? I mean, of course, the year is going to dictate that, just how they do, the success they have on the offensive side of the ball. How beat up or not beat up does he get playing, at his age? That's all going to be, I think, big factors here as far as, the landscape of the team with the salary cap, and can they get better, all those type of things. Is it just, we squeaked by and won one game in the playoffs with Aaron Rodgers? Or, wow, we found ourselves highly competitive in the divisional round and just lost late, or even won that and got to the NFC Championship. I don't know. What or AFC Championship, I should say. I don't know. We'll see what happens there. But Pittsburgh, there certainly is some potential there. They played their starters the other night on Thursday night. I wasn't thoroughly impressed with the way their defense played out there against the second-team offense of the Carolina Panthers. But I still think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be a major player in the AFC. I do.
Well, how do you get the most out of your starters when not all of your starters are playing?
Right.
And when your starting quarterback, while healthy, not playing in any preseason game for the first time, Jerry Dulac of the Post-Gazette pointed this out. It goes back to pre-Roethlisberger that a healthy starter didn't play at all in the preseason. And that's one of my concerns here. And I'm not sure that Mike Tomlin's personality can overcome the fact that he's making exceptions for the guy that he had to have at quarterback. You don't want to show up until the middle of June? Fine. Don't show up until the middle of June. You don't want to play in the preseason? Fine. You're not going to play in the preseason. You want to change the play anytime you want? Fine. Change the play anytime you want to whatever you want it to be. Run the offense however you see fit. I just think that in a football team, when you're a coach who has a well-earned reputation for doing things a certain way, you're going to carve out part of your approach and you're going to do the opposite of what you've ever always done to cater to Aaron Rodgers. I just think that's one of those things that is inescapable from the vibe that it creates. Am I wrong?
Well,
if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong.
Well, no, I think there's certain scenarios that could be a little different, right? I think that's where it is. One, I mean, yeah, it wasn't Rodgers. One, maybe Pittsburgh's changing their ways a little bit. 3 years guaranteed money to TJ Watt, trades to DK Metcalf. We've talked about that a few times this offseason. Maybe they're changing their approach that way. We didn't see DK Metcalf play the other night. Aaron Rodgers didn't play. TJ Watt didn't play. Cam Hayward, the four stars, the big stars of their football team, right? For the most part. Everybody else played. So obviously there was some thought there within the organization of Mike Tomlin to not play those blue chip guys and do that. All right. So, yeah, they've changed some things. But also into what you're talking about a little bit, right? I can't blame Mike Tomlin all for this. Again, he was forced to have to treat this situation like this. Wait, our quarterback's going to be Mason Rudolph? Wait, what, huh? Wait, I want Aaron Rodgers. We definitely need Aaron Rodgers. Wait, Rodgers, you don't want to come yet? Okay, but we definitely need you. Okay, Mason Rudolph? No way. We got to have Aaron Rodgers. So from that standpoint right there, he was kind of put in a position of like, okay, I'm going to have to kind of curtail the way I do things to the needs of Aaron Rodgers and the way it goes because I want him. We're desperate. He's the only guy out there that can get me where I want to go, and I don't have many options here other than Mason Rudolph, and he knows what that is. So that's where I think, too, hopefully the players can realize that Mike Tomlin was put in a little bit of a position here by the organization to where he had to do some of these things as well.
You know, there is a way that this works out incredibly well for the Steelers, and I hadn't thought about it until just now because I thought maybe their interests weren't entirely aligned. For Rodgers, I think getting to the playoffs is all he really needs to do to erase last year and the year before that with the Jets and go out on a high note. He doesn't need to win the Super Bowl, just make it to the playoffs. The Steelers are desperate to win a playoff game, but from Rodgers' perspective, if he can get to the playoffs and he feels like it's mission accomplished, maybe he can cut it loose. You know?
I hear you. Right.
Those interceptions in the postseason don't count against your all-time touchdown to interception ratio in the regular season. Maybe he'll cut it loose and go for it,
right?
In what'll be his last run.
I hope so. I hope he goes down swinging this year. I hope he goes down with, just throwing laser beams and fireballs all over the field. Give me one last Aaron Rodgers hurrah. That's the one thing I loved about Brady at the end of his career. You know that. I mean, here at the end of New England, he was checked down Charlie and he wouldn't do anything. And then all of a sudden it got to Tampa, and we've talked about it a lot, where Bruce Arians got the hot poker out and he was throwing the ball down the field, and as aggressive as I ever seen him, it was awesome to watch. And I would love to see Aaron Rodgers hit that one more time. That would be great to see.
Gary has stopped being polite. Gary, I'm not going to. Hey, Gary, I have a rule with Pete that if you type it in the sheet, I say it.
Well, I wrote the swear word to him first, right? Because
all right, Steelers Nation, let's break this one down, because the latest talk around the AFC North, the odds makers, and of course Aaron Rodgers has people buzzing. And I've got to tell you, this is one of those conversations where the outside world sees the Steelers one way, and inside this fan base, we know it's a whole lot more complicated. So let's dive in. DraftKings put out their updated odds for the AFC North, and honestly, it paints a picture that a lot of Steelers fans are not going to like. The Ravens are sitting pretty as the heavy favorite at -170, the Bengals right behind them, and then there's Pittsburgh down in third place, with the Browns way at the bottom at 40-1. Now here's the thing. The odds makers clearly don't buy into this Steelers team. They're looking at what happened last year, they're looking at the questions around Aaron Rodgers, and they're saying, Pittsburgh isn't a serious threat. But let's stop right there. Did anybody watch the Bengals defense last year? Because from where I was sitting, that unit looked shaky at best. Joe Burrow's the man, nobody denies that. Those receivers are studs. But the defense? The scheme? The personnel? That's a lot of questions for a team that odds makers are putting on this pedestal above Pittsburgh. And the part that bugs me? Pittsburgh made the playoffs last year. Cincinnati did not. Yet everyone talks like the Bengals were the team on the rise and the Steelers didn't belong. How does that math work? Now I get it. By the end of the season, it did feel like the Bengals had momentum while the Steelers limped into the playoffs. But if you're going to tell me the gap between these two teams is massive, I'm not buying it. That's the lazy narrative. And then there's this metaphor that got tossed around. The Steelers are like a kid showing up to school with a brand new haircut, all excited, ready for everyone to see it, but not sure if people are going to love it or hate it. That's this team, with Aaron Rodgers, with DK Metcalf, with the changes they've made. And honestly, that's not a bad way to put it, because right now, Steelers Nation feels that confidence. We feel like this new look could shock people. But the truth? We don't know until the season starts. Now let's hear from one of the guys driving this vibe, DK Metcalf. He said straight up that this is the closest locker room he's ever been a part of since college. Think about that for a second. He's played with Pro Bowlers, he's played with stars, but here in Pittsburgh, he feels something different. A bond, a connection, a team that's willing to fight for each other. That matters. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't have that locker room glue, you won't win in this league. Metcalf also said people may be looking at the Steelers as a big question mark, but his response is, wait and see. We're going to do some special things this year. Now, I'll admit, when I hear the word maybe thrown around, I kind of roll my eyes because I don't want maybe. I want fire. I want certainty. But DK is giving us a peek at the confidence inside that building. He's saying they believe in what's being built. And here's where it gets even spicier. The Aaron Rodgers conversation. Ben Roethlisberger himself has changed his tune after watching Rodgers in camp. We've heard him say he might need to go back and redo his win-loss predictions for this team because Rodgers looks that good. And guys, if Big Ben is impressed, that tells me something because he knows the game. He knows the arm talent, and he knows what it takes to win in Pittsburgh. But here's the risk. Mike Tomlin is bending his own rules to make Rodgers comfortable. Let's call it what it is. Rodgers didn't show up until June? Fine. Rodgers didn't take a single preseason snap? Fine. Rodgers wants to change the play at the line whenever he feels like it? Fine. That is not the Tomlin way. Usually, it's the standard is the standard. Everybody's treated the same. But this is different. Tomlin knew Mason Rudolph wasn't going to get this team anywhere. He knew they needed Rodgers, and when you bring in a Hall of Famer at 41 years old, you're going to make some exceptions. Now, will that cause friction in the locker room? That's the concern. Because when the head coach starts doing things differently for one player, even if it's Rodgers, players notice. The question is, can Rodgers back it up on the field so nobody cares about the special treatment? And I'll say this, there's a scenario where this works out beautifully. Think about it. Rodgers doesn't need to win the Super Bowl to rewrite his story. He just needs to get Pittsburgh back to the playoffs and finally win a playoff game. That alone would erase a lot of the Jets' disaster and prove he still has juice left. And meanwhile, for the Steelers, that's exactly what they've been desperate for. We haven't won a playoff game since Barack Obama was in office. Tomlin is tired of hearing about it. The fans are tired of living it. And Rodgers could be the guy to break that streak. Imagine this. Rodgers cuts it loose in the postseason, plays fearless, plays aggressive, and gives us one last hurrah. That's the dream scenario. That's the Tom Brady in Tampa version of Aaron Rodgers. But here's the bottom line. The AFC North is a dogfight. Baltimore is loaded, Cincinnati has Burrow, and Cleveland's defense is no joke. Oddsmakers might be sleeping on Pittsburgh, but we know this team has the pieces to shock people if everything clicks. So I want to throw it back to you, Steelers Nation. Are the oddsmakers right? Are we really a tier below the Bengals and Ravens, or are they sleeping on Pittsburgh once again, not realizing that Rodgers, Metcalf, and this defense are about to flip the script? Drop your thoughts below. Do you trust Rodgers to lead this team back into playoff relevancy, or are you worried that Tomlin bending the rules might come back to haunt us? Hit that like button. If you're riding with the black and gold, subscribe to Steelers Nation Wire because this season is going to be a wild ride, and let's prove every single oddsmaker wrong.